Hello and welcome to Not Another Too Many Projects. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I've been watching this guy called iRocker and enjoying his videos. He's an American guy who is reacting to other people's videos on the internet generally about other countries in the world. We all have something of a potentially biased view about Americans being fairly ignorant of cultural aspects of other countries in the world, and a very America-centric view. And this guy, I really like him. He's a lovely man. He has a very balanced reaction to what is... I don't know where to look. This is a selfie thing. I need to look there. Okay. He has a very balanced, interesting view. He's a pleasant guy to listen to and chat about, and I've been enjoying a lot of his videos. And I wanted to do something similar, the opposite way round. We all have that kind of stereotypical view of Americans being a little bit ignorant to cultures in other countries, and I don't of course think it's always true. It's something of a stereotype. And I thought it would be fun because I did see some stuff in his videos that, they were a surprise to me. I think in Europe, the world is much smaller. We travel between countries a lot more often. So there are things that make me feel like I'm much more culturally aware of the things he's looking at within Europe at least. But I was in the US recently, and I was, introduced to a lot of different, especially driving concepts and car stuff that I thought was weird and not very well thought through. And I think I'd like to not be that sort of ignorant person that we stereotype Americans to be. And I think, the reaction videos he's doing are kind of opening his eyes to new ideas. Skodas, for some reason. Skodas are an incredibly boring car brand here, owned by Volkswagen, are basically the same as Volkswagens now, apart from a few body panels made in the same factories. But he loves them. Bit of a geek fetish, if you ask me. But there was this really cool one. Let me get the screen up. Look. How am I going to do this? Got to work this out. There you go. So, I really enjoyed this one. Highly recommend. Very questionable video effects. And also, I don't think that's the shape he's supposed to be. iRocker, sort out your video effects and get your aspect ratio right. Your face is weirdly wide. It's odd. Let me turn the subtitles off. He did this video on the Skoda Felicia Fun, which I love. It's really cool. I tried to buy one a few years ago. That's a bad one. Where was that really cool one? They're a bright yellow version of the VW Caddy that Skoda put their Felicia stuff on with this, just loads of bits of plastic attached to it that were yellow. One of my favourite bits is now they're all faded as well. So, the different plastic and metal parts have faded to a different colour. And I love that this guy who owns one has got a yellow shirt. I really wanted one of these a few years ago. They were already a bit expensive. And this guy rightly loves it. Look how good that particular person has set it up with his yellow sunglasses and almost the right era-specific phone. Absolutely love it. Anyway, that's a really good one to listen to if you're interested in iRocker. I recommend him. But one of the ones he did the other day was about driving in the EU, not in the UK where I am, but in the EU versus driving in the US, which is his thing. He's a car guy. I guess if I was in America, I would be a car guy as well. But I liked it. I don't want to just react to iRocker's videos if these ever become popular, but I am going to do that now because that is what's inspired me, and I thought I'd start by going through the same video he did. So I'll put a link to the original video, which is by somebody called Traveller Guy. Should Traveller have one L or two L's? That's a good question for you. Can't remember myself. Pretty sure 2 though. This guy puts 1 in it, and this guy is, I don't know where he's from, but he's in the EU doing a bit of driving about, and he's been in America doing a bit of driving about. I would like to learn more about driving in America because I potentially am going to be doing more of it in the future. I need to put, I'm really sorry, like I'm looking over there because that's where I can see my own face, which is weird talking to myself, but I need to look here. I'm going to put a little smiley face or something on that if I do this again. Getting used to it. I'm going to try not to edit this video as well. That's the whole point of them. I probably will edit it because I'll run out of words or say something horrible accidentally at some point, and still doing it. There. Hi. But so I apologise for editing it, but I will get better at it with time. Speaking is difficult. So I'm just going to press play on this video that belongs to Traveller Guy that iRocker had a look at, and I feel like also I need to share some, need to stick up for the EU. He did make some oversights in his commentary on the subject, but let's have a look through. I might skip some bits if they're really boring because I find them really boring. Well, maybe not. Shouldn't do that, should I? That's the whole point. Okay, let's watch it through. So this is EU versus US. 11 more shocking traffic differences. Let's see what's shocked Traveller Guy.
Hi guys. In the previous video, I've talked about 10 traffic related things that were very different from Europe. Here's a couple of more to the list. Number 1. Highways are going through and not around the cities. Here.
So Los Angeles is where I've been interested in driving in the future. It looks like I might be travelling there a little bit more in my life in the future. It's a very different environment. I feel like I want to share this. Here where I live, we walk a lot. Not as a sport, just because the roads are very set up in the UK for pedestrians to get about. In Los Angeles, certainly I imagine the same in lots of US cities, nobody walks anywhere. And weird thing that when I first visited Los Angeles, the roads are massive. They're huge compared to the UK roads. And in town, like he's saying, these highways are going through town. And I thought it was, before I arrived, I thought it was going to be awful walking along the side of those roads. And I have to say, the roads are so much bigger in each lane, rather than, let's ignore the fact that there's 6 lanes in the centre of town, but they're so much bigger in each lane, and there's always this kind of hard shoulder on the bigger roads. It's not a hard shoulder, it's sort of it's for parking, but and then the pavements, the sidewalks are very, very wide as well, and there's no one else on the pavement. So even though there's 6 lanes of traffic next to you, compared to the UK and especially a lot of European cities, I've got to stop saying that. I hate that, especially compared to a lot of continental European cities. The traffic's actually quite far away from you in LA when you walk along the side of the road. It could be a single track road in Lisbon or something like that. A small, narrow road, old town. And although it's only 1 lane, that van is like nearly hitting you in the ear as it goes past. Whereas I found that Los Angeles, as a result, that was quite, not in the very centre of Los Angeles, but in, especially as you get out to the suburbs and other counties, it's actually a very quiet place to walk around by comparison to, if you're comparing cities, it's not a quiet place to walk around, it's quite noisy, but that road traffic is quite far away from you. It's an interesting fact anyway.
In the EU, the concept is that the traffic should avoid cities. Therefore, major highways go around them. In the US, there is no intention to free the cities from heavy traffic. Cars, trucks go right through the downtown area, causing significant traffic jams and delays. Number 2.
Why don't American cities have the same target-shaped original design that a lot of other cities do? Obviously American cities are, generally speaking, much newer than cities in Europe. Urbanisation is something, I guess, that had already started in Europe when colonies were established in the Americas. But I know that there is a kind of zoning system in the US, but like looking at that map of San Francisco especially, where it's just, I don't understand how that city grew. Really interesting history wise, but yeah, I find that really interesting, the fact that it's so busy, that it's a very car centric kind of country, America, and the way the cities have been designed is very car centric. But it was interesting to me that it felt weirdly quieter, even though there was clearly, a lot more traffic around me at once.
Unexpected traffic jams can happen almost any time in the US, and travel times can vary significantly along the road. One memorable case was when we were at the Valley of Fire State Park in Nevada. We tried to...
Nevada. Shouldn't laugh at people's accents. I remember there's people getting on the bus in London when I was working in Soho years and years ago, and just asking for help from the bus driver. I mean, talking to bus drivers in London really throws them right off. But when you're saying Tottenham Court Road, is this Tottenham? Just no one knew what they're saying. I'm surprised this man's got away with asking for directions, asking for Nevada. Why is that? Why do traffic jams happen quickly? We have a lot of work in the UK in the last 10 or 20 years to try and avoid that situation. But it's more to do with the virtual traffic jam, the traffic jam that happens because everyone's tailgating each other, going very fast, and then someone would probably, like an idiot, checks their phone or something and slows down very slightly. The person behind them's tailgating them, they slam on the brakes a bit harder, the person behind that slams on the brakes a bit harder than that. Before you know it, everyone on the motorway is kind of having a little virtual slowdown, and the whole thing spreads and moves. We've got a lot of, when traffic gets very busy now, controlled speed limits, variable speed limits that change, and they actually, when there's a lot of traffic, they bring the speed limit down with the intention of keeping traffic moving at a consistent pace, even if not as fast, rather than it slowing down and causing problems that then escalate. Why does that? I don't know why that would happen more in the US. I mean, it's only one person's observation, I guess.
To reach the Hoover Dam before sunset. This would have been completely feasible. Google said 90 minutes through Las Vegas, 100 minutes through the desert. We arrive half hour before sunset. Great. We choose the first option.
I don't know if that's an American thing. One of those roads is fairly straight, and one of them is very wiggly. I mean, and it does give you... I mean, I would always go on that short route because it uses, probably in America especially, a similar amount of fuel for more fun driving, but between... I mean, the other one's nearly 50% longer. So it's probably going to use less fuel, and it's going to be more scenic and fun, especially if we're going to watch the sunset at Hoover Dam. But the top one clearly gives you a massive margin for what traffic might do, compared to the other one which says no, bang on.
As it turned out 1 hour later, this was a bad idea. As we traveled, our ETA was extending constantly, minute by minute.
Oh, he did go on that one.
At the sunset, we were still in traffic in the middle of Las Vegas.
Yeah,
as I mentioned before, highways go through the cities and not around them. Thanks to your terribly engineered traffic system, we missed the daylight hours, we missed the sunset, and we arrived to the dam in complete darkness.
That was a bit rude about your traffic system. Sorry about that, America. There is a lot less creative traffic control, I'm going to call it. Clever ideas. I think a lot of that has to do with roads in the centre of town being a grid system of 4-way traffic light systems. There's not much you can do with that. I think we're going to talk about in a minute some of the windy spaghetti highways, but what is it? There is going to be some science behind Perhaps the traffic control systems are a little bit archaic in that design. It's fairly it's not expandable, it's not changeable. Anyway,
I wasn't happy, I can say that. Learning point: don't trust Google, trust your instincts.
Rubbish. Instincts are just like common sense. It means nothing.
If there are options to choose traveling A to
Google told him it was a very variable, potentially, travel time for the route he chose.
B,
Sorry, traveller guy, I wouldn't have chosen that.
stick to the roads which are going through on less populated areas. You can win significant amount of your time, and maybe you can reach your destination before the sun goes down.
In London, there is an area called the congestion charge zone. It was once controversial, but now people have forgotten it. Same will happen with the ELIS. But if you go into the congestion charge zone because Google tells you it's quicker, 100% of the time it will make you be travelling at an average of like 4 to 7 miles an hour. We all know that's the same in Europe. If you go into a city, it's going to a populated area, as he puts it. There's no margin for error, and there's a lot more people, so there's very high statistical likelihood of something happening, a crash, some roadworks that temporary traffic lights that Google should expect, to be honest, because they've got live traffic information. But it always takes longer. There's always a lot more potential for a journey to get much longer or much shorter than predicted.
Number 3. To say good experiences as well, the roads in the US are well maintained and have a high quality. Concrete is often used for better durability on major highways, which is very rarely seen on European roads. Roads which are not classified as highways in Central and Eastern Europe and also in the Balkans are often bumpy.
It depends on the country and the type of road, but yes, look how good that road is he's found as an example of a bad road. I remember driving from Germany into Poland and just going from this perfect motorway into a we couldn't drive in the slow lane because it was just so full of holes from all the trucks, because all the trucks driving there, a lot more wear.
With many potholes. American people traveling to these areas should be careful, where the number one danger is not the road user, but the road itself.
They should also be careful not to drive on the wrong side of the road and kill motorcyclists.
Number 4. As I mentioned in my previous video, distances are huge in the city. American cities tend to have the lowest walkability score.
That's very true. I have really experienced that in Los Angeles recently. It is, in fact, that's what these pictures are of. It's just, people always tell you it's massive, and I'm like, I live in a city. I know how big cities are. And the thing is, LA isn't particularly big, but it's such a conurbation of different areas. LA proper is a small part of what is then huge area of completely urbanized solid. It's not all the same place, but it's just so big, and you can feel it when you're coming in on the airplane straight away. It's like it's far between places, and it's because it's amazing that the overall US population density is nothing. There's just vast quantities of space, but we do flock to urban centres.
If you live in the US, there is no chance to go to school or work, do your grocery shopping, or go out at the weekends using only your foot. Here in the EU,
I disagree with that. It isn't ideal. I have stayed in a few places in Los Angeles where that is possible. You can't get very far. You can't get outside. You can't see all your friends because they all probably live in a slightly different area. But it's not as good as he is, right? It's not as good as the EU, but it is possible.
Most cities are compact and well designed. Therefore, you can do these things mostly by walking, cycling, using public transport.
I wouldn't say they were well designed originally. They're very old cities. In across the whole of Europe, they're very, very old cities, and the road layout wasn't designed for any travelling purpose, I guess. But yeah, we have very different requirements for urban design and travelling around a city. So yeah, a street like this is very normal across the UK and across Europe.
Or a combination of those without the need to use the car. City residents rarely use cars as parking in the city is expensive.
I'm a huge purveyor of the bicycle, by the way. I'd call myself a car guy, but not in the city. It's not a place for cars. It's not required. I mean, the city, not in urban centres. It's got specific practical use cases, and American cities are not necessarily the same, but this is Amsterdam, I think, and it's a bicycle place. You know, it's culturally, everyone uses a bicycle who feasibly can to get around, and not all European cities are quite as bicycle centric, but active travel is not, in inverted commas, is not electric scooters. Things like bicycles, they're incredibly cheap, they're incredibly universally available. Walking from place to place is very practical. I hate this about LA in particular. I know other cities in the US are better.
Or just simply impossible. And public spaces are designed for important things, like schools, offices, or restaurants, and not for parking garages. Number 5. Even though there are limited bike lanes in the US, I can hardly see anyone cycling. What I find awkward is that people go to...
I've been involved in a lot of different cycling communities over the years, and lots of Americans cycle, but yeah, it's like a niche community.
The gym.
It's not just a way around, you know, generally for people to get to work.
By car, of course, to use those stationary bikes instead of just cycling.
Look at this fantastically horrible bicycle infrastructure. It's a particular lane with a solid line that you're not allowed to cross. Great. And then it runs alongside a bunch of car doors. Classic, shockingly bad urban design that we are eradicating and have been eradicating in London for a long time. But nobody uses those lanes because they're probably going to get killed by someone opening a door. Not killed, that's hyperbole. Serious head injury.
Crazy, right? Bike lane infrastructure.
Oh look, another European one, fully inside the door zone.
Is very mixed in the EU. However,
it is very mixed. There's some really good stuff. There's very mixed within the UK, different places. This looks like the Netherlands again. They should know better. I do wonder whether actually people who open their doors to get out of that car are a lot more aware in the Netherlands of cyclists as well, but they just needed another 6 inches to move that away so that car doors would definitely not hit a cyclist. It's not that bad.
You can almost always find some people.
But if you're getting out of a car, you don't want to walk straight into a cycle lane, especially if it's a disabled
cycling.
lane.
In the US, as a more popular option, many people use electric scooters, which are...
Yeah, they don't get them very well in the UK. We do have them. Those companies who have been chucking out scooters they don't get along. They don't get along so well. They've been banned in a number of in continental European cities, and here in the UK the law is quite complex. Well, it's not actually. They're illegal. They've changed the law to allow hire bikes specifically, but they're such a stupid, dangerous form of transport, and if the infrastructure allows, they can get on quite well, but they're never gonna work as safely as a bicycle. And actually, I think that's apparent in London a lot more. That's my experience, is that the scooter companies are becoming a lot more successful by offering an electrically assisted bicycle.
Becoming more widespread in the EU too. Number 6. When I was walking along those multi-million-dollar houses at the Hollywood Hills,
I really enjoy doing that. That's a pastime I undertook while staying in LA recently.
I was shocked that there is no pavement next to the road. Americans allocate as much space as possible to cars, but when it comes to bike or pedestrian infrastructure, they are really cheap. Not just in Hollywood, everywhere. Number 7.
Yeah, I quite liked it though. I didn't get killed by a car on those roads. You know what? Actually, the drivers in LA were really considerate of pedestrians. We don't have jaywalking here. If somebody wants to cross the road, they cross the road, and the more vulnerable road user has priority. Some years ago I went to LA and I did cross the road in a jaywalking fashion. I was ignorant to it, and I have to say, stepping out into a road in LA, imagining I was in the UK, the cars actually stopped for me at quite an enormous distance from me. They were very considerate, possibly because they were so angry at me being such a horrible jaywalker.
What I find dangerous while driving in the US is the red turning signals on the back of the...
I was considering this because it's come up that I might want to have a car in the US one day. Your brake lights flashing to indicate turning, I've seesawed. It's horrible. I hate it. So I thought, why would anyone want that? And both are available in the US. I'm not sure of the legality in different states, but both, you see a lot of modern cars with of the same car that's been purchased with a European style separate light for turning and braking, and the American style that we're seeing here on this Audi where it flashes red. And then I thought, no, if I'm going to be in America working, I want to commit wholly to American culture and get an old Chevy truck or something, and then I want it to have stupid lights because it's America, and I want to fit. And then I thought, no, because I saw sat in the back of too many cars in America with the driver being on their phone absent-mindedly, which is totally illegal in the UK, and it's quite a bad offence. You get 6 points on your licence. You do it twice, you lose your licence in the UK, and you get banned from driving for a year. And the reason it's such a strict punishment for that is because it causes so many accidents. I saw a lot of that, and I thought, you know what? If people are going to be driving behind me at night on their phone, I would much rather have a whole Christmas tree of different coloured lights to catch their peripheral vision as they approach me too fast. So I've gone back now. I seesawed, but I've gone back to wanting some orange indicators.
Cars. It is hardly noticeable as they have the same color as the brake lamp or the driving lamp.
Is it? This is quite a modern version. In the older versions, I feel like it's the one red lamp is both tail lights, brake lights, and indicators. But this one, I am seeing that it's the tail light that flashes, not the brake light.
Therefore, it can create potential situations for crash. In the EU, you will meet only yellow or amber turning signals. The signal is easily noticeable and stands out from other signals. Number 8. The types of cars are very different from European cars. If you go to Europe, you will meet mostly small or mid-sized sedans, hatchbacks, station wagons, and some newly increasingly popular SUVs.
I suspect that this is changing now the cost of fuel is going up in America. Fuel is still very cheap in your most expensive states, by the way, compared to everywhere else in the world that I've been. But one of the things that is remarkable is as your vehicle gets larger, it uses a lot more fuel, especially if you're using a petrol engine, which you're more likely to be doing in America.
In the US, the ratio for SUVs is much higher. There is one segment.
SUV is such a washed out term. It's just you just had the same chassis as a little car with a massive, great big non-aerodynamic lump on top.
Which is quite rare in Europe.
I'm all for driving a massive pickup though. I've been trying to move my perception away from wanting large fossil fuel burning vehicles in the environment in which I live, and I love it. I've grown up loving cars and motorbikes and bicycles and anything mechanical really, but the idea of working in the US for a little while, it is a little bit of a horrible kind of, I don't want to be someone who gets back into cars and in fact commits more wholly to the idea of getting an unpleasantly large vehicle, but I've got a feeling it might happen. I really want an old truck that has very few parts, and it's awesome.
The pickup trucks. These vehicles were designed for farmers. On the other hand, many people are using them who are not even close to agriculture.
I would like someone to find me a video on the history of why America uses so many pickup trucks. Were they for farmers? I suppose it makes sense to an extent. I've done some driving in South Africa quite a lot. I've got friends out there. They have a lot of buckies, which are pickups. It's a name for a pickup. We have vans in the UK for commercial vehicles. We have barely capable four-wheel drive vans for commercial reasons in that scenario, and tractors for farms. No, farms are different. I know nothing about farms. Don't listen to me on that subject. But the pickup is very rare here. They use it on building sites a lot, but rarely to carry building materials. It's more, there seems to be the sort of person who owns the company in quite a nice pickup, showing off their wealth and authority, whereas everyone else drives a van.
Culture. This vehicle is unsuitable to transport everyday goods on an everyday basis. I remember we almost crashed into a stopped pickup truck in the middle of the highway while we were cruising at high speed. Why? Well, the cargo area is of course open and therefore exposed to bad weather conditions and high wind on the road.
I bet Americans have got a lot to say on that subject. I don't know. I think that might be a little bit biased by this gentleman.
As a result, goods and packages can easily fall out, typically in the most awkward and most dangerous situations. This type of vehicle is not just unsuitable for most users, but thanks to their unnecessarily strong engine, one of the biggest air polluters among the cars in America. Number 9.
I mean, they're all petrol. I don't know if it is one of the biggest polluters. We have a lot more diesels in smaller vehicles in the UK and Europe, and they use less fuel, so that's good. But what comes out the back of them is absolutely horrible compared to what is still horrible. But it's a petrol car is much less poisonous.
On gas stations in the US, you have to pay first and then fuel.
Well, yeah, you have to do that at night here. It's risk of theft, whether it's high or low in your area. Can someone help me here, though? In the UK and Europe, we have 95 octane fuel and then premium, which is always 98 octane. I'll ignore for the moment. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'll ignore bioethanol content, E5 and E10. Why in the US is it 87, 89 and 91? I feel like it's a different scale. Is it like an imperial octane scale compared to our metric one? Who knows?
In the EU, you are allowed to fuel first and then pay the bill. However, it varies country to country. Number 10. The traffic light is on the other side of the road in the US, which has pros and cons.
Is it always there? It could be anywhere in the... I think... Go on, talk about this.
It has better visibility. However, if you are turning, it can be misleading, as you might think that you are going through a red light.
Yeah. This in the UK, where the traffic lights are, depends on the specifics of the junction. Quite often you'll see them on the other side and on the near side for the if it's got a long amount of queuing traffic, you'll have a high one so that people can see it from a long way away on the other side, and then you'll have a near one that you can see from the stop line if you're at the front. I'd like to note, if iRocker ever watches these, there is a low traffic light in the in a lot of continental European countries, there is a you have what we'll see in a minute.
In the
actually.
EU, you will
This one. So in this scenario, I think we'll
find the
get to see
traffic
it.
light before
Can you? Oh yeah, you need to go a frame back.
you will find the traffic light
There. So just down low, there's always one of those. So if you're very close, the traffic light pole might be next to your front headlight, and you can't see the other traffic light. But there's a very low one down here. Interestingly, in London, we have some very good cycling infrastructure where this low one will likely be specific for cyclists, and it will go green a number of seconds before the rest of the traffic lights go green, and that's to help clear out all the cyclists who have wiggled their way to the front from around your HGV before you turn left. Because it can be that is where all the deaths happen, is heavy goods vehicles turning left in urban settings for cyclist deaths, that is. And they actually have cycling lights now to allow the cyclist to clear out a few seconds before the HGV then is allowed to get out, because otherwise the poor HGV drivers get stuck waiting for cyclists to move, and then the light goes red again and no one's actually moved, so it's a bit of a problem. But I think this is a broad statement from them. This is not true in the UK, at least. Our traffic lights, depending on the junction, they need to be visible. Quite often they've got louvres on them to stop you from seeing, maybe if there's another junction coming in from an angle that might be confusing to drivers. They have louvres. They're considered for going on the other side if there's a long amount of queuing traffic. They might just be a small one low down if it's only never a long amount of queuing traffic. It really depends. But also, every junction in the US, in the city, it's usually the same. It's 4 roads, because you've got your grid pattern. So you don't have to make decisions like, ooh, this one's a funny junction. There's a really good video I saw the other day from 2 people, that guy who does loads of interesting factoid videos about this junction where it was in the New Forest, and it was a major road going through, and then a minor road which has a give-way here and a give-way here. And they were at a tilted angle that meant it was very, very easily for a cyclist approaching at low speed on the major road to stay in the blind spot that the A-pillar causes for a driver approaching too fast from here. And in the end, they had to change the angles to make it safe, so that A, drivers wouldn't go too fast and shoot straight across the major road, and B, to keep the angle from stopping. So angles are not always 90 degrees here. Roads coming in, there's a lot, especially in a city where you might have 5 or 6 roads. I think probably up ahead you can see that there's a much larger junction to the one we're looking at. You might have roads coming from all directions, so it's really considered on a case-by-case basis, whereas in the US, everything's a grid system, all the same junction, all the same traffic systems.
before the intersections and not after. Number 11. The traffic light changes from red to green instantly in the US. In the EU, before it turns green, the yellow light will also appear.
This is controversial. I think it works much better this way. It's the same in the UK as this EU headlight. Traffic light, sorry. You can see that the red light is still lit when the amber light comes on. It's giving you a little warning that it might be green. You're not allowed to go through this one. When it goes the other way from green to red, you'll see it transition to an amber light temporarily, which I think does happen in the US. And the intention behind that is that if you can stop when it goes amber before it goes red, you should. If you can't stop because you're travelling at too high a speed, then you're going to be safely through that junction before it goes red, so you know. It's just a little bit of extra warning for everyone. Seems to make sense, calms the whole thing down. There is a little bit of panic for me when it goes from red to green, and so suddenly I'm like, I'm not in gear, what's going on?
For a second or two. The main reason behind that in the EU, most cars operated with manual transmission. Therefore, it takes some more time to launch.
That's true, actually. Yeah, like I said, I'm not in gear. That was my panic. That's something I'd like to know more about. Why we don't really have... We do now. Modern cars are mostly automatic, but I never grew up. I think I had one one of my friend's parents had an automatic car growing up. You have to be able to drive manual to pass the test. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Passing the test, there's another video. I should write these down. But yeah, I guess it makes sense. I think this guy says things without researching them first, but I don't know if that's the reason. I think it just makes sense whatever you do.
Fortunately, it is slowly going away as more and more cars are equipped with the much more convenient automatic transmission. However, it is not known when the yellow light sequence will be removed from the traffic lights.
I don't think it will. I think you've made that up. That doesn't sound like a good idea. You're still going to be going from stationary to moving. You should still be checking your blind spots before you move off.
That was my last point. If you have more experiences, agree or disagree with my point, don't forget to mention it in the comment section. I'm planning to upload more interesting stuff on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, so if you don't want to miss anything, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a nice day.
I make no promises about uploading things on a weekly or bi-weekly basis because I might not for several months. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I am interested to know if you've enjoyed me chatting about this video. I like chatting about videos. And I like iRocker, he's fun. I'd like to be that sort of fun guy. I won't do it if you don't like it. I feel silly talking to myself in a room. But it's interesting, isn't it? I'd like to know more about driving in America. I think I kind of see this as more interesting to American people, me chatting away here. I feel like this guy makes some stuff up, but I mean, it's not unfounded ideas. It's not totally. I can see where it's coming from. Shocking. I found myself shocked and appalled constantly throughout that video. And if you have anything to suggest that I might like to do, that you might like to hear me talk about, I'm going to do a few of these. I'm going to do a few of these and see where it goes, see if I enjoy doing it. See if you watch them, see if you care. I'm interested to know what you think. I'm interested to see how many times I watch this back and edit it, which is something I'd like to shy away from. Do lose my train of thought halfway through speaking sometimes, though, and it's not fun to watch. But if you have got to this stage, I really appreciate you watching, so thank you very much. Subscribe, like. Should I change this to a different playlist? Tell me about it. Tell me what you think. And I will see you on the next one.